Hello, boys and girls. Tonight we're going to read again from the Jesus Storybook Bible, and we're going to read stories tonight about a miracle that Jesus performed and a parable that Jesus told. There once were 5,000 tired and hungry and probably very grumpy people sitting on a hillside, wanting their dinner. They'd come to hear Jesus that day. They came before breakfast, they stayed all morning, all afternoon, and way past dinner. No one had meant to be out there that long, but that's how it was, listening to Jesus, as if time didn't exist. People could listen to Jesus for hours, and on this particular day, that's just what they did. But they hadn't brought enough food, and they couldn't just go and buy themselves a burger and fries to go, because, of course, they were in the middle of nowhere, with no shops or restaurants. Besides, that kind of food wasn't even invented yet. Well, what would they do? Jesus' friends had an idea. Hey, let's send everyone home for dinner. They don't need to go, Jesus said. You can give them something to eat. Did Jesus want them to travel all the way to town and buy food for everyone? Jesus' friends panicked. But we don't have enough money. Well, what food do you have? Jesus asked. Go and see. Now, there was a little boy in the crowd. He had brought a lunch that his mother had made for him that morning. He looked at his 5 loaves and 2 fishes. It wasn't much, not nearly enough for 5,000, but it was all he had. I have some, he said. Jesus' friends laughed when they saw his little lunch. That's not nearly enough, they said. But they were wrong. Jesus knew it didn't matter how much the little boy had. God would make it enough, more than enough. Jesus said, Bring me what you have. And so the little boy gave Jesus his lunch. Jesus winked at the little boy and whispered in his ear, Watch. How in the world will Jesus feed everyone with just that? Jesus' friends said, because they thought it was impossible. But Jesus knew the one who made all the fish in the oceans, and Jesus knew the one who is in the very beginning made everything out of nothing at all. How hard would something like this be for someone like that? Jesus took the little boy's lunch, he looked up to heaven, and thanked his Father. Then Jesus gave the little lunch back to his friends. As Jesus' friends started to hand out the food, do you know what? It was the strangest thing. No matter how much they broke off, there was always more. And more and more, enough for 5,000. Everyone ate as much as they wanted, 2nd helpings, 3rd helpings, even 4ths, until they were full. And still there were leftovers. Well, Jesus did many miracles like this, things people thought couldn't happen. They weren't natural. But it was the most natural thing in all the world. It's what God had been doing from the beginning, of course, taking the nothing and making it everything, taking the emptiness and filling it up, taking the darkness and making it light. One day Jesus was telling people about God's kingdom. God's kingdom is wherever God is king, Jesus told them. It's wherever God is in charge. It's where he fills your heart up with his forever happiness, and you stop running away from him and you love him. But sometimes people couldn't understand things very well, so Jesus helped them by telling them stories called parables. Jesus said, God's kingdom is like a hidden treasure. And then he told this story. Once upon a time, there was a man digging in a field. Digging. So there he was digging, but what he didn't know is that in that field there was a buried treasure. So dig, 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 clink, clank, clonk. Uh-oh, his shovel bumps into something hard. Hello, what's this? He picks it up, dusts it off. It's a chest. It's rusted and locked, but creak, he pries it open. What he sees inside takes his breath away. Beautiful, glittering, gleaming, twinkling, sparkling, precious jewels. It's a treasure chest. He wants that treasure. He needs to get that treasure. He must have that treasure somehow, even if he has to sell everything he has so he can pay for it. He quickly buries the treasure again. He runs home and he sells everything he has. He takes the money from the sale and he goes and buys that field. Now he owns the field and the treasure that is buried in it. he runs back and digs up the treasure again. Jesus said, "Coming home to God is as wonderful as finding a treasure. You might have to dig before you find it. You might have to look before you see it. You might even have to give up everything you have to get it. But being where God is, being in His kingdom, that's more important than anything else in all the world. It's worth anything you can give up," Jesus told them, because God is the real treasure. God had a treasure too, of course, a treasure that was lost long, long ago. What was God's treasure? His most important thing, the thing that God loved best in the world. Well, God's treasure was His children. It was why Jesus had come into the world, to find God's treasure and pay the price to win them back. And Jesus would do it, even if it cost Him everything that He had.